Okay, I've outdone myself, if I do say so myself. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is my weekly vlog for Monday, October the 8th, 2018. And I hope everybody had a good week last week, and I hope you've got something exciting planned for this week. Today is Thanksgiving Day in Canada, so that means this has been a long weekend. Today, things are closed. It's hard to tell what things are closed when anymore, because they have things called statutory holidays when, you know, government buildings and everything is supposed to be closed, like Christmas Day, that kind of stuff. But anymore, it seems to be a hit and miss as to what is open and what is closed. For sure, anything related to the government is closed, like the liquor store, the post office, government buildings, schools, all that kind of stuff. But it's hard to say what else is closed today. And we may find out, because later on we're going to go out. We're going to go over to the hospital to visit my mom. And yeah, so we'll see what's open. So what have I been up to? Well, I finally finished the bed quilt, as you could see in the opening teaser. I'm very proud of it. It turned out really nice. It was not without its trials and tribulations, however, and I've recorded all of those trials and tribulations in a video under the Idiot Quilter section of my channel, and I believe it is episode 29. And basically I recorded various stages of creating the quilt from the beginning to the end. It's not a very long video, it runs about 12 minutes, but it'll show you some of the problems you have when you make a quilt the size that I made. I mean, it's a queen size quilt, and believe me, you wouldn't think fabric would be that heavy, but the more pieces you add to it, the more you try to manipulate it around, the heavier it gets. And that presents a lot of problems when it comes to trying to quilt it on a domestic machine. But I did get it quilted on my domestic machine. So anyways, if you're interested in that process or seeing more about that quilt, then go to the Idiot Quilter episode 29, and it's all laid out there for you. What else have I been making? Well, I'm in the Christmas mood. And I've decided now that I've made enough quilts that it's time to start making things, including quilts, to give away. And I'm going to start this process with Christmas by making for a person that I know. I don't think she'll watch this anyways, but for my sister. And if she did watch this and she sees it, don't let the surprise, don't tell me. Make it a surprise for me when I give these to you. Now, I'm not absolutely sure if I'm going to give these to her yet. I made 4 placemats. They're all made out of the same material, but the way you arrange them makes them each slightly different, which I think is kind of cool. On the back, I made 4 placemats. On the back, 2 of them have this, and 2 of them have this. And you might ask why I have 2 different colors. That's because I didn't have enough of this material to do them all the same. But it does make the placemats reversible. Now, I haven't quilted these yet. That's the next thing to do, but I think they turned out quite nice. Now, the reason I'm saying is I may or may not give this particular set to my sister depends on a couple of factors. One of those factors is whether or not I like them to go with the table runner that I've made for her. Again, I have the table runner all pieced and sewn together, but I have not yet quilted it, and that's the next stage. And I also embroidered on this, so you can see right there in the squares I have embroidery, and I'm really happy with the way this turned out. This is my own design in terms of how I've laid it out. Okay, I mean, I'm using traditional blocks, mainly what they call half square triangles and flying geese, but I think it turned out really nice. Now, I did not put a binding on this. I did the pillowcase technique for binding, which I find is easier, and also for things like placemats or for table runners, it's I think it looks nice. And it takes less time, less fiddling about with it. But as I said, I still need to quilt that table runner. And I'm not sure, I think I might make a different set of placemats to go with it and probably use the motif or the blocks that I have already created in the placemat, or not in the placemat, but in the table runner as the basis of the placemats. I got to check to see how much of that Christmas material I have left. I may have to get a little bit more. Thing is, I can't remember where I necessarily bought each one of those Christmas fabrics, because I went to about 3 different quilting stores and I picked them up a while ago, like back in about September, early September, something like that. So I may not be able to find those ones again, but we'll see. I've got some other material. I'll make things work one way or the other. So yeah, so my plan now is to start working on other projects, quilts as well, that I intend to gift to family, relatives at the moment, and then I'm going to branch out to probably friends, because how many quilts does one person need? Okay, so we'll see. I don't know if I'll make another queen size quilt. I may, not immediately. That was a big job. But I do want to take the long arm quilter course at the place here that's near my area that does this. And after I've done that, then I'll consider making larger quilts again, because maybe I'll be able to go down, rent time, and do long arm quilting on those kind of things, which would be much easier than trying to get it all into your domestic machine. It can be done, but long arm would be nicer. I'd love to own a long arm, only because it's another machine, but we're talking pricey, especially for the kind that I would want, you know, anywhere $20,000 and up. And the more expensive ones have a software on them that allows you to walk away as the long arm does all the work for you, kind of like my embroidery machine. And you know how I love machines. So anyways, that's down the road. Plus, I don't know where I would put one if I could afford one. They're big, and I just don't have the room, the physical room for it. So, but never say never. All right, so, oh, and what's the other thing I did? Oh, I forgot to bring it out to you, but I did show it on Stephen and Walter Live. It's what they call freestanding applique. We did this in my latest embroidery class, and it's really cute. Actually, it's quite beautiful. It's a butterfly, and it's a lace type of butterfly in colors, and it turned out great. And I'm thinking of making several of them, and I don't know, maybe using them as decorations at Christmas time or any time of the year. They're just so nice, and they're 3-dimensional as well. But if you want to see what that looks like, and sorry I didn't bring it out, and it means I'd have to get off my stool, turn off the video, go and pick it up and get it, and start all over again on here, and I just don't have the umption to do that. But it is on Stephen and Walter Live, very close to the beginning of the video, so you can see it there if you're interested. Okay, so that's what I've been up to. So, YouTube channel of the week. This one is very different. It has nothing to do with crafting world things. It has nothing to do with quilting or sewing or anything like that. It's just kind of fascinating. There are people, well, you've heard the old adage, one man's garbage is another man's treasure. Well, this YouTube playlist, because as opposed to putting up one channel this week, I put up a playlist about dumpster diving. Now, if you've never heard of dumpster diving, watch this. This week's YouTube channel is something a little different. It doesn't have anything to do with quilting. It doesn't have anything to do with crafting, but it does have a lot to do with, well, garbage, because I've recently discovered videos on YouTube about people's adventures as they dumpster dive. That's the act of jumping into one of those giant industrial-sized garbage cans and looking for what people have thrown out. Now, a lot of these dumpster diver videos are really quite sensational because they find a lot of really cool stuff. Of course, that's why they're videotaping this, so recording, come into the 21st century, why don't I? They record these because they are sensational finds. This is not a guarantee that if you jump into your local dumpster that you're going to find the kind of treasures these people have found. But nevertheless, they find all kinds of interesting things. And I guess what they do is they probably resell them on something like eBay or whatever. The big finds seem to be from behind large stores like Walmart or grocery stores or things like that. They literally find things still in their original package, nothing wrong with them. They've just been thrown out for some reason. Now I imagine it's probably illegal to do this kind of thing, and that probably is why a lot of these videos, I notice, have been taken at night. However, it's kind of interesting to watch other people rooting through garbage. So I guess it's true. One man's garbage is another man's treasure. Now, this does not mean I'm going out tomorrow to jump into a bunch of garbage cans and look for hidden treasures or anything like that. But it is kind of fascinating to watch these people and how they make a living out of finding these things and reselling them on like eBay or wherever. So, kind of interesting. So, what else is interesting? No person of interest this week. You know the drill. My resources are in the notes below, so the link to Stephen and Walter Live is there. The Idiot Quilter episode featuring my process for the quilt is there. Dumpster diving playlist is there. And the book of the week that we'll come to in a few minutes is also there. So that takes us to what's pissing me off this week. It has to be people who come unprepared for a class. Now, you know that Walter is taking a couple of sewing classes as well. I'm going to talk about his latest project in a bit as well, so stay tuned. But I had warned him about the first class that when he gets in there, there's going to be people who don't have any of the stuff they're supposed to bring, even though you're told in advance what to bring and the whole bit. They won't have it. Some of them won't know how to use their sewing machine. Some of them won't know the difference between a sewing machine and a blender. And there'll be all kinds of frustration, and you just have to go and be as prepared as you can be and accept the fact that not everybody is as organized as yourself. At least that's the philosophy that I have, because time after time I've been in classes and there's always, and it's always more than one, it's not just one person. They come like deer in headlights. Oh, was I supposed to bring that? Oh, was I supposed to do that? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know about that. That is very frustrating. It's frustrating on the level of the instructor, because I know I have been in that situation many times, because you know that I give classes as well in mixed media. And, you know, because it happens so often that people don't bring the things they're supposed to bring, or they just expect that the fee for the course includes all of the course materials, which they never do. Usually, and there's a reason for that. It would make the course extremely expensive and less attractive to people who might be interested in taking it if you suddenly said, sure, yeah, all supplies are included. It's a 2-hour class, it's $100. Yeah, people think different about that. But so I always come prepared with extras, because I know there's always going to be somebody who doesn't have everything with them. But what's really annoying are the people who, you know, okay, maybe they forgot 1 or 2 things. That's not really a major problem. As I said, I always bring extra. But there are those who just show up and expect that you're just going to hand them everything over. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. Supplies are costly, especially when it's been set up in such a way that you've been told this is what you need to bring to the class. And then they give you this look like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, stop playing blonde with me. Well, Walter got to experience that in his class. Also, what pisses me off is just not the fact that they're unprepared and that gives an instructor a problem, but it sort of is distracting to the other people taking the class. I mean, like Walter had to take plastic with him. Now, given it wasn't said in the instruction sheet that you could you couldn't get the plastic at the sewing store where he's taking the class at Ultimate Sewing. It didn't say that in the instructions. But Walter asked about it, and he asked several weeks before the class was to start, and they said no, and they gave him some suggestions of where he could find it though, and off he went and he got it. He bought more than enough, and it was a good thing, because with the exception of one other person, nobody else except him had this plastic, and that was crucial to this particular class. So Walter, being the kind of person he is, he handed out plastic to people. Now, some of them did offer to pay him for it, but he said, no, it doesn't matter, because it wasn't that expensive. He said it was about $4, $3.99 a meter. And I think he bought 2 meters of it. So it's not going to make or break anybody. Same thing happened to me, though, in one class as well. In the first embroidery class, we were told to bring a hand towel with us for the first project. And there was one lady in there. She didn't bother to bring a hand towel. I took extra, so I gave her one. Again, she was kind enough to offer to pay for it, that kind of thing. It cost me $2 at Yisk or something like that. It was a cheap hand towel. So I said, don't worry about it. But that's the thing. It causes stress for the people taking a class when not everybody comes fully prepared. It's just extremely annoying, for one thing. It also delays the class, because then the instructor has to stop, get the other people materials. People have to lend them stuff or whatever. And by the time you get that all sorted out, well, half the class time is up. And then the instructor's rushing to get through whatever his or her agenda is. I think it's inconsiderate of people to do that. I mean, one of the ladies in Walter's class said, well, I came in about a month or so ago and they didn't have the class list of materials ready yet. And I was too busy to get in closer to the date of. Well, okay, whose fault is that? Hers. All right. There's nothing saying then she couldn't have phoned the store and say, hi, do you have the list of materials that I need, there at the store? That way, she could probably figure out when she could get to the store and get the stuff. I mean, you got to take a little bit of responsibility for these things onto your own shoulders, don't you? You can't expect them to do everything. But having said that, I also want to play a little bit of devil's advocate here with people who are instructors. Teachers come at various levels of expertise. I do find it is quite annoying when you've gone in, as the person who's taking the class, you've got the class list of supplies, you've gone out, you've got all the supplies, you've got it there, and then you get into the class and find out there's something not on the supply list that you're supposed to have, and they just made an assumption that you would have it. I mean, it is a class, after all, and if you're taking the class, it means you don't know anything about this. If you knew how to do it all, you wouldn't be taking the class. So you got to make sure you have everything there. Or, as in the case of Walter's class, they list something that you go out and you get, and then they don't use it. And one of those things was tracing paper. Now, Walter tends to be too diplomatic of a person to say anything to the instructor. I, on the other hand, am not so diplomatic. And I would say to the person, look, it wasn't on your list. What's that all about? Or this was on your list. I spent money to get this. And depending on how I feel about the instructor, whether or not I would go any further with that and say, and would you like to reimburse me for getting this stuff that is now useless to me? I don't know if I would do that or not, but in my imagination, I do it, okay? I'd probably just say nothing about it, whatever. But that is annoying. Now, again, it depends on the expertise of the teacher or the personality of the person, too. Not everybody's as organized as I am. Okay, I know I'm organized to a fault. I'm anally retentive, I guess. I don't know. I've had that phrase used about me. Obsessive compulsive, possibly. Whatever. But I just feel that if you're going to make it a good experience for the people that are taking your class, then you need to be accurate in your list of materials that they're supposed to bring. You need to be timely. Make sure that the list is available. I mean, there's a class that I'm taking the 1st of November, not that far away, and as far as I know right now, the pattern for that class is still not available. And there's also the class materials for it. Actually, I'm getting this mixed up. There's two classes. One, the pattern isn't available yet, and the other class, the list of materials isn't available yet. And I think that class, though, doesn't happen until more into the middle of November. Yeah, sure, it's over a month away yet. But don't leave us hanging, okay? I mean, I signed up for this class in August, these classes. I have paid my money for the classes. It behooves you not to have the class list and everything ready to go and the supplies at the store so you can get them and all that, especially when the store's policy is that you're supposed to come in at least 10 days before the class starts to get all your stuff. Well, if you do that 10 days before and if the thing isn't ready, yeah. And that's really, the onus is really on the teachers of the course to make sure their stuff is there ready. And I think the onus comes on the store management as well to make a deadline. Like if it was my case, I'd say, here's the date I have to have that list of stuff. If I don't have it by that date, that class is canceled and you're not making a dime from it. They'd only do it once, wouldn't they? Yeah. But anyways, that's what's pissing me off. I expect people to be prepared, especially when you're laying money down for something. You got to get the value for your money. Simple as that. And you have to give the value for the money as well. So anyways, that's what's pissing me off this week. Okay, moving on. A product review. So I was watching a YouTube video about quilting, and one of those YouTube videos, they were talking about this mister bottle that they got, that they put their starch in. Best press is what a lot of us use, and basically use that to, you know, stiffen your material, and, you know, when you're ironing it out, it makes it easier to cut, it makes it easier to sew, and things like that. Now, I've been using just a little cheap little spray bottle, a little thing, and it's fine, it works, but you get droplets out of it because it's not really a mister, it's a spray. And apparently this one person was talking on YouTube video about going to a hair salon supply company store, you know. I think they mentioned something called Sally, which we do have those around here, but I've never been in one. But you basically handle hairdressing supplies. And it's a mister bottle that I guess hairdressers use for, you know, wetting your hair. But it sprays a very fine mist and no droplets. And there was a link on to the Amazon.com where you get such a thing. So I went on to Amazon.ca, and lo and behold, there it was. It wasn't that expensive. It was about $12. So I thought I'd take a chance, and I got this mister bottle. It works like a charm. It pumps out a very fine mist of whatever you've got in the bottle. No droplets, the whole bit. So that was a clever little invention, I thought. Great for quilt makers and that whole bit. So yeah, I was thrilled to get that. It works really well. Small things amuse small minds. Moving on, let's talk about the book of the week. Looking in my stash, I came up with this. Playing with Books. Again, one of those things I forgot I had. And it's by Jason Thompson. And basically, and I'm going to show you some examples of things that I've done. It's how you can turn old books into pieces of art by folding pages, cutting pages, collaging on pages, all kinds of things. Really great idea. And in this day and age of e-texts, and books now are, you know, they're being scrapped all over the place. Secondhand stores, thrift stores have all of those. You probably have a pile of books in your own house that, you know, you didn't know what to do with. Well, here's a way of recycling them. And this book tells you all about it. In fact, it's called The Art of Upcycling, Deconstructing, and Reimagining the Book. So this is really great. Now, not a cheap book. This book cost me, I'm looking on the back, $31.99 Canadian when I bought it. So I went on Amazon, Amazon.ca, to see what they're selling it for now. Well, if you can get it brand new, exactly like this, on Amazon for $19.24 Canadian. But you can also get used copies starting at about $7.79 Canadian. So if you're into the idea of, doing something with some old books that's a little bit different, I would suggest picking up Playing with Books. But go for the used copy, because I bet you the used copy is probably in the same shape as this copy that I have. I've always had success, as you know, I've talked about that before, that buying the used ones on Amazon they're usually in pretty much brand new condition and a lot cheaper. So I said I was going to show you some examples of the kind of things they have in this book. So what's in my drawers this week are my book art. So what's in my drawers this week? Well, it's not so much what's in my drawers as what is on my walls. And it got me thinking about this when I did the review on this book, Playing with Books. I have played with books, and I haven't done it in a while, but you can make some really neat art pieces. And here's one that I made from a book. Just went to a thrift store, picked up an old book, and tea-dyed the pages. Actually, I probably used some distress spray ink or something like that, and just start folding them. And there's no cutting involved. I did paste down some of the back pages to give it strength. It's mounted, hard to show you when I'm holding the camera here. It's mounted on a piece of canvas board, but I just glued it. And this is what I got out of it. Added a couple of large brads on the sides, and I think it turned out pretty cool. Now, there are lots of videos about doing this kind of thing, and some of these are really elaborate. Some people get right in there, and it's amazing what they can create from the pages of a book. But if you're not into doing something this elaborate, and this, by the way, is not really elaborate. This did not take a long time to do. I just played around with different folds. I made it up as I went along, but I also did, well, this is actually a memorial piece that I did for my precious baby cat, who we lost about 3 years ago. She had pancreatic cancer, and of course, she was in a lot of pain, and, well, don't get me started on it, because it'll just make me cry. But this is a little piece I did as a memorial. It's a book, and actually I have a piece of doweling down in the spine of the book because I wanted it to stay open so it would stand up. I glued the pages together inside, and I also dyed them, stained them to give an antique look. And it was an old book, an old secondhand book. Ironically, this book was called Gravelight, which is kind of morbid, maybe. I didn't realize that until after I got this done, that's what this book was called. I didn't pay much attention to the spine of it. And what I have here is a picture of Cleo. And you might wonder about the things that are around it. Well, I did this as sort of a symbolic piece as well. On the cover of the book, I added some scrapbook paper, and I think it's Tim Holtz tissue paper, actually. I cut out the center of the book so I could frame her picture, and then I added this stylized butterfly that I had made, actually to symbolize that, you know, her spirit is still with us. And this was her favorite toy, Ratty on a Stick, we used to call it. She loved to drag this around the house. In fact, she went through a lot of these. They were from the dollar store, but she just loved them. And she beat the snot out of them too, as well. And then this little plaque down here that says, "A house is not a home without a cat." This hung over top of her water fountain and her food dish in the kitchen where it was all set up for. And after she passed, I kind of left this in that corner for a little while. But I knew I had to put things away, and so I added this to this little memorial piece out of a book. So anyways, there's many, many things you can do with old books to create art. You can also use the pages out of the books, and you know that already from doing mixed media and things like that. But I can't show it to you right now because it's buried in the crawl space. But I made a Christmas wreath one year out of old textbook pages that I stained, very similar to this. And then you roll them into cones and just keep gluing them around in a big circle, and actually it's kind of fun to do. And there are videos about how to do that, and in fact on my site, on my YouTube channel somewhere from years ago, probably 3-4 years ago, there is a video of that as well. I can't even tell you what it's called yet. Just look up Christmas wreath, I think, and you may find it. Anyways, I thought show you this because we all have old books laying around probably, and if you don't, you can get them very easily, and it might be kind of fun to try using them as art. Okay, so events in the past week. Well, update on my mother. She's still in the hospital. She's doing okay. I talked to her doctor earlier this week. Her doctor phoned me. They want to fit her up with some kind of a back brace because you know that she has some compressed discs and some fractures in some of those discs. What do they call them? Pressure fractures, something like that. She doesn't have any pain, but they feel that the back brace would help her, you know, walking. Now she doesn't walk, but they get her up and they try to get her to move a little bit, and she's assisted by the nurses with all of this, or the rehab people, and they think that would just be better for her. Now my mother has turned around and told them she doesn't need that. She doesn't want that. And there is some cost involved, and so she's, you know, my mother's basically telling them that she can't afford it either, but she can. So the doctor called me about it, and we had a long discussion about it, and I said, if you think it'll help, let's go ahead with it. I said, you know, what's the cost? And they said, well, it could be $600 or $700. And I said, not a problem. And it's not a problem. My mother's finances are fairly secure. She's not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I manage her money, and I manage money well. So it's okay. And if there might be the slight bit of hope here that this will help her out, then I'm all for it. Only thing is, I said to the doctor, I know my mother very well, and I sound like a broken record, but she's not going to walk. She put herself into the situation she's in now because she just decided she wasn't going to walk anymore. And when my mother has her mind made up, she has her mind made up. But I said, if you think it'll be a help, that's fine. Who knows? Maybe the doctor will prove me wrong and my mother will be doing ballet dancing across the wards of the hospital. Yeah, not going to happen. But anyways, she's doing okay. Quite frankly, I think she likes being in the hospital. I think she likes being waited on the whole bit. She comes up with lots of things, though, that she thinks she needs. Last week, she wanted a different set of headphones for her TV set. Now, mind you, the TV set, the headphones they provide at the hospital are cheap. They're like those cheap ones you used to get on the airlines. They're pretty much disposable. And one of the ladies in her room had a pair of the old style. Well, they're not old style now. It's very trendy to wear these kind of headphones now with the kids. The stuff we used to wear in the 70s, you know, the big, I call them Princess Leia headphones, you know, the big muffs on the ear. She thought those would be better. And she says, that lady got a pair over at Staples, which is a stationery store, for $10. So I said to her, if that's what you want, I'll go and find you a pair. Now, I wasn't willing to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a pair of headphones because I knew it was going to happen. She wouldn't be happy with them. They'd be too heavy, whatever. So I went to Staples. It's funny, the Staples is where we park when we go to the hospital because there's one right next door to the hospital and it's free parking. Otherwise, you're paying $8 every time you park. And that gets a little pricey with the number of times we go over in a week. So anyways, I went into Staples. They had one pair, $9.99. Bought them. Took them immediately back over to the hospital to my mother. Showed her how to use them. And she put them on. Well, we come back a few days later. And this is funny. She's sitting up in bed. She's watching TV. And she's got the headphones, the ear parts, stuck on either side of her face, on her cheeks. And I kind of look at her and go, Mom, your ears are up here. She goes, I know, but I can hear them better here. They're so heavy. They don't fit on my head right. I really don't like them. Oh yeah, knew that was going to happen. Glad we only spent 10 bucks on the stupid things. And I said, well, Mom, it's either those or the other ones. Well, give me the other ones. I said, well, I can't give you the other ones because the nurse told me just to toss them in the garbage. But they have more at the nurse's desk. I can go down and get them for you. Well, I never did. And the reason being is that this one nurse came in and was wanting to get my mother out of bed and into a chair. And apparently my mother wasn't wearing a whole hell of a lot on the bottom half of her body. And I did not want to be standing around there for that. Okay. So anyways, we left a little bit sooner than we usually do. So I guess today when we go over, I will ask her how the headphones are and then see if I can get another pair from the nurse's desk if she still wants the old pairs. I think what she's leading up to is she wants earbuds because somebody else back months ago when she first got in the hospital had, you know, the earbuds. Those things are a pain in the butt. I've always found them difficult to use. I have a pair now that I use, but they were much more expensive and they're Bluetooth and they've got things that sort of sit right into your ears and they don't come out. I'm not spending that kind of money on a pair for my mother. Plus she has to have ones that are corded because this TV set does not operate with Bluetooth. But I know she'll never manage them. The earbuds. They'll pop out of her ears the whole bit, and then she'll lose them. They'll get buried underneath the blankets in the bed, whatever. So I'm not even going to go that route. So whatever. She just has to get used to the other ones. The other thing she decided she wanted was, my mother has arthritis in her hands, although she says it doesn't hurt, but she has claws, basically. Her hands are so sort of deformed, her fingers, and I don't know what that's about. That may have been because she fell a few times, and I think she may have damaged tendons in her hand. She says she doesn't have any pain, and doctors have looked at it, but they haven't said that there's anything to really do about it. So she thought she could build up some strength in her hand if she had one of those balls, you know, grip balls that you squeeze all the time. So I said, okay, knowing darn well right that as soon as I got her something like that, she'll never use it. So I found a pack of 3. Each one is a different kind of pressure. And I took them over to my mother, gave them to her to see which ones were the best ones she could manipulate. And of course it was the softest one, and even that was kind of hard for her to do. So I said, okay, here you go. And the next time I went over, I didn't see hide nor hair of those balls. I don't imagine she's even been using them. They're probably in one of the drawers in the little nightstand she has next to her bed. But I forgot to ask her about them. So today I'll try to remember to ask her about the balls, how those are working out. But I know she'll come up with an answer about why they're no good. I'm also a little afraid that she'll drop one of those balls on the floor. It'll go rolling somewhere. A nurse or somebody will walk into the room, step on it, and fall and hurt themselves. And then can you say lawsuit? I don't know. I mean, it's an accident waiting to happen. I'm pretty sure of that. So I don't know. Well, I'll see today whatever, you know, what she's doing with that. Of course, I always ask my mother when I talk to her on the phone or at the hospital, is there anything you need or you want? I got to stop asking that because she'll always come up with something. So yesterday I'm talking to her on the phone. And I said, we'll be over tomorrow to visit you. Anything you need? Well, I'd like some more cheesies. Okay, I bought a big bag of cheesies a couple of weeks ago, and I put some of them into a Tupperware container and took them to her. And as those got lower, I'd bring her more. Because I figured if I give her a whole bag, they're going to go stale pretty fast, or it's going to be hard for her to manipulate the bag, and it's going to be all over everything. Okay. So then last week when I was over there earlier in the week or something, I see that there's a half container of the cheesies left in there, and I said, do you want more cheesies? No, you can take those away. She says, I'm sick of cheesies. Yeah, okay, I know that was going to happen because my mother goes on these binges. She has to have these. Last binge before that was mints. and she got sick of those. And then it was sour cream and onion Pringles potato chips, and she's sick of those. And yeah, she goes on these binges. Okay, so when I said to her yesterday on the phone, is there anything you need? She said, well, I wouldn't mind some cheesies. So, okay, here we go again. We're back on cheesies. But according to my sister, she didn't eat the cheesies because she didn't like the kind that I got her. Okay, for the most part, cheesies are cheesies. And I got her a brand name cheesies. I didn't get her any of those knockoff ones or, you know, the cheap ones because, yeah, sometimes the cheese that's on those types of cheesies is kind of gross. I also got, and then there's two types of textures. There's crunchy ones and then there's the smoother ones. Well, my mother's teeth are not the best in the world, okay? In fact, they're downright gross. So I got her the softer ones. Also, I got her the ones that I knew. My mother's always liked cheesies. So when I was a kid in that, and if she ever got cheesies, she always got this particular brand, and I knew what the texture of those were like, and that's what I duplicated. But she, according to my sister, she didn't like those. So you never know what's true. I get two stories all the time. My mother says one thing to me, my sister tells me that my mother said something different to her. So anyways, we'll see today when we go back over there. Now, we went to my sister's, speaking of my sister's, for Thanksgiving dinner yesterday, Sunday, and that was a little different because I think it's the first time we've had a family dinner where my mother wasn't there for it, because we can't take her out of the hospital for it because we can't manage her. It takes 2 nurses to get her out of bed and into a wheelchair. She doesn't go to the washroom on her own. In fact, she basically is bedpanned in the bed because of her mobility issue in the whole bed. So there's just no way that we can like pick her up, take her for dinner, bring her back. It's not going to work that way. And to be honest, and this may sound really selfish of me, it was really a nice time to go over to my sister's. The kids were home from university. It was just the 4 of them, my sister and my brother-in-law and the 2 kids, and Walter and I. So there was just the 6 of us. And it was kind of nice, because we didn't have to be constantly checking on my mother to make sure, you know, we were getting her food, if she needed anything to drink, getting her to the table, stuff like that, which is what has always been until she went into the hospital, anytime that we could get her out for dinner. Because it wasn't very relaxing at all with that. And then my mother, quite frankly, would put a damper on things because her attitude was sort of negative. And she'd sit there, she wouldn't say too much, but it was like, you know, just, there's an elephant in the room here and it's my mother, kind of a thing. Which is kind of ironic in itself, using that expression, because my mother's not a very big woman. So, but you know what I mean, it's just there. So it was very nice. We had a very nice dinner with my sister and her husband and the kids, and it was nice just to be there and be as siblings. Kind of thing. Oh, sure, we talked about my mother, we talked about my brother, and I'm not going to get into any of that, but, you know, it was kind of nice. Talked about what the kids were doing, how school was going, all that kind of stuff. So it was good. But I did feel a little guilty that my mother wasn't there, which means, what are we going to do about Christmas? She could still be in the hospital at Christmas. If she's not in the hospital, she'll be in a home. Well, if she's in a home, in a nursing home at Christmas time, they always have these little rooms that you can book out for family functions, kind of thing. And so we could go take, you know, Christmas dinner kind of a thing over and do Christmas in the nursing home. In the hospital, not going to be quite the same. So we'll do something. My mother loves Christmas, always has. So I don't know, maybe take something over to, you know, decorate. Her space is very limited. So I don't know. I have to think about it, and already spoke to my sister about it too. So between the 2 of us, I guess we'll come up with something with it all. I don't like Christmas myself. That's a discussion for another day, and I think I've had that discussion on a previous vlog way back at some point in time. But nevertheless, well, this is the new normal, I guess. Just have to get used to it. Okay, get away from my mother. Had a meeting of the Quilt Guild this week. I'm now a member of it. And I took a chance. They always have a show and share session where people show their latest projects and things that they've been working on. And I took one of my quilts. I was a little nervous about showing it at the Guild. And it was the second largest quilt, because at that point in the week I had not finished the one that you've just seen in the teaser here for today's vlog. So I took this with me, stood in line, and I asked them to be kind. Well, guild people, quilters in general, are very nice and very supportive people, I have found. Sure, they might see something they don't like, but they're not going to say it to your face. All right. So anyways, I showed them my quilt and explained, you know, how long I'd been quilting, not long, and they seemed to be very much impressed by it, which made me feel a little bit more confident. Now, whether or not they were being completely honest with me, I don't know, or just being kind. Actually, I really don't care, because it made me feel good. So next month, I am going to take the big queen size quilt, because I am very proud of that, and I'm going to show that. Yes, there are flaws in it, but for the most part, it's not a show quilt, never will be, didn't make it for that. But I am proud of it, and I want to show it off. If you don't give yourself a pat in the back, who will? So anyways, I had my embroidery class and already mentioned that we did this freestanding applique with the butterfly, which is really cool technique. And Walter, he had his stained glass quilt class as well. And in a moment, I'm going to put in just a short little video to show you what Walter's working on. It's phenomenal. I mean, this is what I hate. He does it for the first time, and it's going to be gorgeous. Am I in competition with him? Yes. No. Maybe. I don't know. But it is going to be really, really nice. But I'll show you that in a second. But we also went to RMG Fridays at the Art Gallery, which, you know, we volunteer there. And that's the night when they have, you know, entertainment and they have a bar and all that kind of stuff. And basically I had told them, we're sick and tired of doing RMG Fridays where all our job is stand around, slap people's hands if they walk into part of the gallery with their wine glass and they're not there, or they try to touch the art. So we kind of are floaters now. What we do is we kind of still do that, but we also help out in other areas where we can, which I like a little better. But things, I was talking to various other volunteers or people, staff at the art gallery. Things are falling apart, in my opinion. Things are going downhill. They have new staff, new people in key roles in the staff that because some people have quit and some people are having a baby and things like that. They have a new curator, haven't met this person yet. There's no more education team. We got dissolved officially, finally. Instead of just ignoring us, now they sent out this long email with a whole lot of jargon in it explaining the direction for the future. And basically the bottom line is, thanks a lot, we don't need you anymore, goodbye, drop dead. So we're looking for other opportunities, as you know, at the art gallery, because we enjoy volunteering there. But I think our days of being there at the art gallery are limited. Not because we don't want to do anything, it's because more and more they seem to be closing the door on volunteers there. And they're lost, really. You know, all these organizations out there are always screaming for more volunteers. They can't get enough help. And then they treat you like crap. Or they just don't need you anymore or whatever. So, you know, what goes around comes around. So anyways, I'll let you know. We're giving it until the end of the year. And if things look like they're not getting any better or they're going in a direction that we're not comfortable with, we're just going to resign from being volunteers there. Sorry, we'll find something else to do. There's lots of other opportunities in other spots. We just have to find them. Okay, so I told you I was going to show you Walter's stained glass quilt. It's not done. He's just in the, it's an applique kind of thing. And so I put a little video clip together so you can get an idea of what he's working on. So, you've been working today on your stained glass quilt. Mm-hmm. Lots of pieces, a type of applique. Yeah, you, for your first endeavor into this quilt making, you kind of bit off a large chunk, didn't you? Mm-hmm. So, do you like doing it?
It's okay.
Don't get too excited then. I see you've got your pile of fabrics over there and everything. Well, I'm sure when it's done, it's going to look pretty good. It goes on a black background, right?
Yeah. These lines will be black in between.
Oh, so it'll look like a stained glass.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, we'll see what the final product is when you get there.
And so Walter's been working late into the night, and he's got all his pieces laid down for the applique, as you can see. And of course these are all loose right now. They have to be fused and whatever else, but I think this is going to be a really beautiful quilt.
So, what do we got coming up this week? Well, back to the volunteering for the art gallery. They're having a 2-day symposium. It's a very elaborate, I think. It's something to do with technology and art or whatever. People are paying big bucks to come to this for 2 days, and we're volunteering for this. And basically, Joe Boys, setting up chairs, cleaning up dishes, I don't know. Not really sure. Whatever they need is what we're volunteering for. And that's on Friday and Saturday. And luckily, this Saturday, I do not have a sewing class, an embroidery class, because it is also this weekend Creative Fest, which is sewing and crafting, and it's a big thing. It happens twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. And the fall one is usually better than the spring one. There's more vendors there, and that starts on Thursday. And the lady who owns the Ultimate Sewing Store, she will be there all those days, and she's my instructor for the course, so she obviously can't instruct the course when she's at this Creative Fest. So we don't have a class. So luckily that works out since we volunteered to do this symposium. However, we don't know what we're doing yet. No one has contacted us to tell us what specifically they want. I'm going to send an email off to one of the people at the art gallery today to see if I can get in touch with whoever's organizing it, or let them know, you know, we want to know what you want us to do, when you want us to show up, all that kind of stuff. However, I'm a little worried because if it involves setting up chairs and things, I would assume they would want to do that the day before or the night before. And the day before is the Thursday of this week, and that's when I want to go to Creative Fest. And I am going to Creative Fest. That's the only day that we can go because it runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It doesn't run on Sunday. And of course, Friday and Saturday we're doing the symposium. So I want to go on Thursday. You know, and my philosophy is this. If you wanted us to do something specific and you wanted us to come in a day before or the afternoon before to do it, you should have given us advance notice of that, because you haven't. And so we've made plans. So, too bad, so sad. You work it out. I am going to Creative Fest. I didn't go to the one in the spring. I'm going to this one because I want to see what's out there that's new and exciting in the quilting world, and I am prepared to spend money. Okay? So, that's my plan, and we'll see how that all works out, and I'll let you know next week about that. I am teaching an art journal class this coming Sunday. It's my monthly one, and it's sort of a free-for-all. Our theme is Halloween and Thanksgiving, and after I'm finished this vlog today, I've got to get some of my stuff together that I'm taking for that, and I've made them a little gifty bag of some items that they can use in whatever they're going to create that day, and some Halloween candy as well in the bag. I always like to give people in my classes a little gift, a little swag bag or something, because I think it just makes it feel that much more special. And it's just a little element that I think, you know, I love it when I go to something and they give me something, so, you know, I pass it around. So that's on Sunday. So that reminds me, Stephen and Walter Live, as I mentioned to anybody who tuned in yesterday, we will be on 1 hour later than usual this coming Sunday. Instead of at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be on at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Reason being is my class doesn't end until, I don't get home from my class until a little after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's why it'll be at 5 p.m. instead of 4 p.m. this coming Sunday. Okay, well, I think that's it for me this week. So I hope you have a good week ahead of you, and I hope you had a good weekend. And if you're a Canadian viewer, happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see everybody for Stephen and Walter Live at 5 p.m. this Sunday and on next week's vlog. Bye for now.